In our long history on this planet, we humans have often seen ourselves as separate from the natural world. We have built great cities, created astonishing technologies, and explored the deepest oceans and the furthest stars. Yet, we remain part of a vast and interconnected web of life. Today, more than ever, we are asking a profound question. What is our responsibility to the other creatures who share this earth with us? Are they simply resources for our use, or do they have a right to exist for their own sake? This is not just a philosophical puzzle. It touches every part of our modern lives, from the food on our plates to the clothes we wear. To understand this question, we must first explore a simple but powerful idea. What does it mean to be a moral subject? A moral subject is a being whose well-being we ought to consider for its own sake. It is a being that can be wronged. For much of our history, we thought only humans could be moral subjects. We believed that our ability to reason, to use complex language, and to create moral codes made us unique. But as we learn more about the animal kingdom, this clear line has begun to blur. We are discovering that many animals have rich inner lives, full of feeling and awareness. This growing awareness challenges us to think more deeply. If a dog can feel joy, if an elephant can grieve for its lost family, or if a chimpanzee can show kindness to another, do we not have some duty to protect them from unnecessary harm? The question of animal rights asks us to look beyond our own species and consider the interests of others. It invites us to expand our circle of moral concern, just as we have done in the past to include people of all races, genders, and backgrounds. This is a journey of empathy, a journey of science, and a journey of ethics that is shaping our future. The conversation about animal rights is gaining momentum all around the world. It is driven by new scientific discoveries that reveal the surprising complexity of animal minds and emotions. It is also fueled by a growing sense of unease about how we treat animals in industrial farms, in laboratories, and in environments threatened by human activity. We are beginning to see that the well-being of animals is deeply connected to the health of our planet and ultimately to our own humanity. How we answer this question will say a great deal about the kind of world we wish to create for the generations that will follow us. The way humans have thought about animals has changed dramatically over time. In many ancient cultures, animals were seen with a mix of awe and respect. They were often viewed as sacred beings, as spirits of the wild, or as relatives in a shared world. Some early philosophies, particularly in the East, promoted ideas of non-violence, or ahimsa, which extended to all living creatures. Thinkers like Pythagoras in ancient Greece were said to have believed in the transmigration of souls, suggesting a deep connection between humans and animals. These views fostered a sense of kinship and a responsibility to treat animals with care. However, other powerful ideas took hold, especially in Western thought. The philosopher Aristotle, for instance, arranged life in a hierarchy, with humans at the very top. He argued that nature made all things for the sake of man. This idea that animals existed solely for human use became deeply embedded in our culture for centuries. Later, thinkers like René Descartes in the 17th century went even further. He suggested that animals were like machines, without minds or feelings. He believed they could not feel pain in the way we do, and their cries were merely mechanical responses, like the chiming of a clock. The tide began to turn in the 18th and 19th centuries, during a period of great social and moral change. The philosopher Jeremy Bentham famously challenged the old ideas. He wrote that the most important question is, not can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? This was a revolutionary shift. It moved the focus from an animal's intelligence to its capacity for feeling. This simple question laid the foundation for the modern animal protection movement. Suddenly, causing an animal to suffer was not just a matter of damaging property, it was a moral issue. This new way of thinking inspired the creation of the first animal welfare societies. In 1822, the United Kingdom passed Martin's Act, one of the first laws to protect animals from cruelty. Thinkers like Peter Singer and Tom Regan in the 20th century built upon these foundations. Singer argued for the equal consideration of interests, suggesting that an animal's interest in avoiding pain is just as important as a human's. Regan argued that many animals have intrinsic value as subjects of a life, giving them a right to respectful treatment. This long and winding history shows a slow but steady expansion of our moral vision. At the very center of the debate about animal rights is the concept of sentience. Sentience is the ability to feel, perceive, and experience things subjectively. It is the capacity to have positive feelings, like joy and comfort, and negative feelings, like pain, fear, and distress. If an animal is sentient, it is not just a biological machine. It is an individual with a perspective on its own life. Things can go well or poorly for it. This is why sentience is the cornerstone of animal ethics. If a being can suffer, then we have a moral reason to avoid causing it to suffer. For a long time, it was difficult to prove what an animal was truly feeling. We could only observe its behavior. But today, a wealth of scientific evidence supports the idea that many animals are indeed sentient. Neurologists have found that the brain structures that produce emotions in humans are also present in many other animals, especially mammals and birds. We can observe animals behaving in ways that strongly suggest they have feelings. Elephants mourn their dead, returning to their bones for years. Prairie dogs have complex calls that describe predators in great detail, including their size and color. Consider the octopus, a creature so different from us. It is an invertebrate, yet it has shown remarkable intelligence and an ability to feel. Octopuses have been observed playing with objects, showing curiosity, and using tools to protect themselves. They can recognize individual humans and will treat them differently based on past interactions. These behaviors are not the actions of a simple automaton. They are the signs of a conscious mind at work, a mind that experiences its world. The evidence is now so strong that many countries are officially recognizing animal sentience in their laws. This scientific confirmation of animal sentience has profound ethical implications. If we accept that animals can feel pain and joy, then it becomes much harder to justify actions that cause them immense suffering for our own minor benefit. It forces us to ask difficult questions. Is the taste of a particular food worth the lifetime of suffering for the animal that produced it? Is the knowledge gained from a painful experiment on a primate justified? Recognizing sentience means we can no longer pretend that animals are just things. They are feeling beings, and that fact alone gives them moral importance. The case for granting animals rights rests on several powerful arguments. One of the strongest is the principle of equal consideration. This idea, championed by Peter Singer, suggests that we should give equal weight to the similar interests of all beings. An animal's interest in not being in pain is a very strong interest. We should consider it just as seriously as a human's interest in not being in pain. Of course, this doesn't mean animals and humans should have all the same rights. A pig does not have an interest in voting. But it does mean its fundamental interests, like the desire to live and avoid suffering, deserve protection. Another key argument is based on the idea of intrinsic value. Philosophers like Tom Regan argue that many animals are subjects of a life. This means they are conscious beings with their own beliefs, desires, and goals. They are not just containers for feelings, they are individuals whose lives matter to them. As such, they have an inherent value, separate from how useful they are to us. To treat them as mere resources is to violate their basic right to be treated with respect. This view calls for the abolition of practices like commercial animal agriculture and animal testing, not just their reform. However, there are also significant arguments against the idea of animal rights. A common objection is the belief in human exceptionalism. This view holds that humans are unique because of our capacity for abstract reason, language, and moral agency. Because we can understand right and wrong and participate in a moral community, we have a special status. Animals, this argument goes, cannot have rights because they do not have duties. They do not understand moral contracts, so they cannot be part of them. Therefore, while we should be kind to them, they do not possess rights in the same way humans do. A further argument focuses on practical challenges and proposes animal welfare as an alternative. Critics of animal rights argue that granting rights to animals would be unworkable and would lead to absurd consequences. Would we have to stop building roads to protect insects? Instead of rights, they advocate for a focus on animal welfare. This approach accepts that humans will use animals for food, research, and other purposes, but it insists that we have a duty to ensure they are treated humanely and that their suffering is minimized as much as possible. This view seeks to improve conditions for animals, rather than fundamentally changing their legal status. The ideas we hold about animals have a direct impact on our everyday choices. If we come to see animals as moral subjects, it can change the way we think about the food we eat, the clothes we buy, and the entertainment we seek. For many, this might mean choosing a plant-based diet or reducing meat consumption to minimize the suffering involved in industrial farming. It could mean carefully checking labels to ensure products were not tested on animals or avoiding clothing made from fur or leather. These small individual choices, when made by many, can send a powerful message to industries and drive change. Governments and legal systems are also, slowly beginning to reflect this shift. Around the world, we are seeing important advancements in animal law. Countries like the United Kingdom, Spain, and France have passed legislation that officially recognizes animals as sentient beings, changing their legal status from mere property to something more. These laws can lead to stricter regulations on farming, stronger penalties for animal cruelty, and bans on practices like cosmetic testing on animals. This legal evolution is a crucial step in translating our ethical concerns into real-world protection for animals. Different cultures and religions have long offered diverse perspectives on our relationship with animals. Many indigenous traditions view animals as our teachers and relatives, embodying a deep sense of respect and reciprocity. In faiths like Jainism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, the principle of non-violence, or ahimsa, is central, leading many followers to adopt vegetarianism. Even within traditions that have historically placed humans at the top of a hierarchy, there are strong calls for stewardship and compassion. These diverse worldviews enrich the conversation and remind us that there are many paths to a more compassionate coexistence. As we look to the future, many questions remain. How do we balance the interests of humans with the interests of animals in a world with limited resources? How can we protect wild animals and their habitats in the face of climate change and human expansion? The great challenge ahead is to continue expanding our circle of moral concern. We have done it before, moving from a world where only certain men had rights to one, where we strive for the rights of all people. The question for our time is whether that circle has room to grow once more, to finally include the countless other species with whom we share this remarkable planet.